Chosen one, stop. Before you take one more step in the direction you are moving, right now, stop and stay here with me. There is something you have been carrying, quietly, carefully. Something that arrived and fit so precisely into the shape of what you have been praying for that you were almost afraid to name it out loud in case the naming made it disappear. A door that opened, a person who appeared, a direction that finally felt certain after so long without one. And underneath the hope, so quiet you have almost managed to ignore it, something whispers, wait. Trust that whisper. Here is what I need you to understand before we begin. The most dangerous moment in a chosen one's journey is not the lowest point. At your lowest, you held tightly to what was real. The dangerous moment is this one, the almost there, when hope has returned, tender, careful, almost shy, after a long absence. Because that is when the trap closes. Your enemy does not come for you at your bottom. He comes the moment your prayers are about to be answered, and he arrives carrying the very thing you asked for. But hear this, the sophistication of what was set against you is not evidence of your weakness. It is an announcement of your significance. You were brought here. Something moved in the unseen and placed you in the path of this message before you made the next decision. Stay. This changes everything. Everything I am about to share with you is completely free. But if at any point your spirit tells you there is more waiting for you beyond this message, you will find it in the pinned comment and in the description below. Only if you feel genuinely led there. I want to ask you to stay with me through everything that comes next. By the time we reach the end of this message together, you will have 3 things you did not walk in with. A way to recognize the trap before it closes on you. A name for the faculty you have always carried, but may never have been given language for. And a practical test, 3 questions that you can apply right now to whatever you are currently holding. Stay with me. What comes next is worth your full attention. Now, let me show you how the trap is built, because most people misunderstand the architecture of deception. They imagine traps as obvious things, dark at the edges, uncomfortable to approach, something that triggers every alarm the moment you get close. But the traps designed for the chosen one are never crude, they are never rough at the edges, and they are never made to feel like danger. Think about how a skilled hunter places a snare. He does not put something frightening at the center of it. He puts the one thing the animal has been searching for, the exact food, the right shelter, the precise scent of safety. The trap is not designed to look like a trap. It is designed to look like a gift that arrived at exactly the right moment. That is not metaphor. That is the operating principle. And there are signs that you are close to a trap, or that you may already be holding one without fully knowing it. I want to give you 4 of them now, and I want you to pay attention to which ones land with recognition. The first sign is the arrival of 2 feelings at the same time that do not usually share the same space: joy and unease. Excitement and a quiet hesitation you cannot quite name. You feel pulled forward, and something in you says not yet, all in the same breath. Most people dismiss the hesitation. They call it fear. They push it down in the name of faith and move forward anyway. But that is not doubt you are feeling. That is discernment trying to speak. And that is not confusion. That is discernment trying to speak. The second sign is invisible pressure. A sense, subtle but persistent, that the window is closing. That you need to decide now. That if you wait too long, you will lose it entirely. Chosen one, please hear this clearly. Divine provision does not pressure. That urgency, that sense of having to move before you are ready, that is not the language of what was genuinely sent for you. A trap can only close when you step into it before you have had time to see clearly. And that is not confusion. That is discernment trying to speak. The third sign is that your intuition has been saying wait for longer than you have been comfortable, admitting, not loudly, not dramatically, just consistently, underneath everything else. Even as every surface indicator is pointing you forward, something deeper has been holding back. You have been explaining that hesitation away, working around it, hoping it will resolve on its own. It has not resolved, because it is not anxiety. It is information your deepest knowing is carrying for you. And that is not confusion. That is discernment, trying to speak. The fourth sign is that the timing feels too orchestrated, almost theatrical in how precisely it matched the specific shape of what you asked for. And I want to say this carefully. Not every perfect timing is suspicious. But when something arrives with a precision that mirrors your most private, most specific prayer, and that precision comes wrapped in the other three signs I just described, that level of orchestration deserves more than a relieved yes. It deserves a careful look. If one of those four signs is describing something you are holding right now, type the words "I see it" in the comments below. Let that be your first act of discernment today. Now, I want to go deeper than the surface. Because knowing that a trap exists is one thing. Understanding why it was designed specifically for you is something else entirely. Your enemy did not select you at random. He does not study the prayers of people whose lives will make no difference. He does not invest in elaborate, precisely timed counterfeits for those who carry nothing significant. He does not engineer the kind of bait that mirrors your deepest longing for destinies that pose no real threat to anything worth protecting. Traps of this sophistication are set for specific targets, and specific targets are chosen for a reason. There is a story I have returned to many times. The story of Joseph. His brothers did not target him because he was weak. They targeted him because something in him was extraordinary, and they could feel it before he had fully named it himself. The trap they set was not impulsive. It was designed with precise knowledge of what marked him as significant. They took the visible sign of his covering. They threw him into the pit, and they sold him into circumstances that looked nothing like what he was made for. But here is what I need you to see. Every part of that trap, the betrayal, the years of displacement, the long invisible seasons, all of it became the exact mechanism that moved him into the position where his assignment could be fulfilled. The trap did not derail his destiny. The trap became the road to it. Your extended season of waiting has been doing something that only extended seasons can do. It has been developing the one thing a trap cannot reach, the capacity to sit with longing without being ruled by it. The ability to want something deeply and still say, "Not yet." The rootedness that does not blow with the first answer that arrives, no matter how perfectly that answer is dressed. What was being formed in you through the wilderness was this: a spine, the kind that can be drawn to something beautiful and still ask whether beautiful means right. The ancient teachers who studied the inner life most carefully, those who withdrew not to escape the world, but to understand the movements of the human spirit more precisely, they passed down one test above all others. Not "how does this feel?" Not "does this make sense on the surface?" Their question was simpler and more ruthless than either of those. Does this thing require you to move before you are ready? Because in their understanding, what is genuinely sent for you carries patience within it. It waits. It does not press. And anything that arrives with the urgency of a closing window carries the mark of something other than what it presents itself to be. I want to share something with you that does not belong to me. A story passed along with permission. A woman who had been carrying a very specific prayer for 3 years. Not a vague prayer. A particular provision. A particular door she had been asking to open. Something arrived that matched every detail of what she had been waiting for. The timing was exact, the form was right, and she moved toward it with the profound relief of someone who had finally stopped waiting. 3 months later, she could see clearly what she had not been able to see at the beginning, and she said something I have not forgotten. She said, "I had been waiting so long that I confused the relief of arrival with the confirmation of source. The feeling that the waiting was over felt so much like peace that I could not tell the difference between them. That is not her failure. That is not her weakness. That is what extended seasons of waiting do to a person who is still alive enough to hope. They make the arrival of anything feel like the answer to everything. And that is the opening the enemy studies and waits for and moves through. I want to slow down here for a moment. What I just described is not abstract for some of you. I know that. You are placing a specific situation, a specific person, a specific door alongside what I am saying and recognizing it. And I want you to know something before we continue. It is safe to look at this clearly. Clarity is not the same as cruelty toward yourself. You are not here to condemn what you were drawn to, or to feel foolish for the hope you carried. You are here to see. And seeing something clearly, even something you deeply wanted to be the answer, is an act of care toward yourself, not betrayal. Take a breath. Nothing about this moment requires you to decide anything yet. We are just looking. Here is what I have come to understand about the obstacle that makes the trap possible in the first place. I call it the finally trap. Not because there is anything wrong with relief, not because hope is a weakness, but because when the season of waiting has lasted long enough, the word finally arrives in the heart, like a door swinging open, and it changes something in the way we receive what comes next. It turns down the volume on questions. It convinces you that examining a gift too closely is an act of ingratitude. It makes you afraid that scrutiny is the same as sabotage, and that asking hard questions means you are choosing doubt over faith. And so you hold what arrived gently, and you hope the hesitation in you will eventually quiet itself down. But here is the truth about the finally trap. The longer the wait, the more convincing the bait needs to be. And the more convinced you are that the waiting is finally over, the harder it is to hear the voice underneath that says, "Not yet." There may be a fear inside all of this that sounds something like this. What if I examine it too closely and I destroy it? What if my doubt is the problem, not the thing I am doubting? What if my hesitation means I do not deserve what arrived? I want to speak directly to those fears. You are allowed to question what arrived. Questioning is not the absence of faith. It is faith, being careful with what it receives. You are allowed to hesitate without calling it a lack of trust. The pause before you move is not weakness. It is wisdom, collecting what it needs before it acts. You are allowed to say, "Not yet," to something that feels like an answer. Not yet is not rejection. Not yet is discernment working. You are allowed to examine without being afraid that the examination destroys it. What was genuinely sent for? You will not collapse when you look at it honestly. Only counterfeits dissolve when they are looked at closely. You are allowed to discern without guilt. Discernment is not suspicion. It is the sacred capacity to separate what something appears to be from what it actually is. And you are allowed to protect what is truly yours by refusing what is not, even when what is not yours was built with extraordinary precision to look exactly like it was made for you. Now, I have shown you how the trap is constructed. I have shown you 4 signs of its presence. I have shown you what it targets in you and why. I have shown you the obstacle that makes it effective, and I have given you permission to look at what you are carrying without shame. But there is something I have not told you yet. Something that changes the entire meaning of this moment. Because the trap your enemy set with such patience, such precision, such intimate knowledge of your prayer, that trap carries a message inside it that he never intended for you to read. And once you see what that message is, everything about this season changes. Not just the way you see the trap, the way you see yourself. Chosen one. The trap was set for you. But let me show you what that actually means. The enemy does not set traps for prayers that have gone unheard. He does not build convincing counterfeits for breakthroughs that are not on their way. He does not invest in the kind of precision, the kind of perfect timing, the kind of exact match mirroring you have been experiencing for situations where there is nothing significant waiting on the other side. A counterfeit requires an original. and the existence of a counterfeit confirms that the original is real. The trap set against you in this season is not proof that what you have been praying for is out of reach. It is proof that what you have been praying for is close enough, real enough, imminent enough, that something became concerned. What felt like your prayers being ignored was actually your answer, being protected until the right moment. What felt like endless waiting was actually preparation that could not be rushed. What felt like delay was actually development happening underneath the surface where you could not see it. What felt like confusion was actually clarity forming in the deep. What felt like a warning was actually a confirmation. The trap is not the end of the story. The trap is the sign that the story is about to change. I hear the Father saying this over you now. The trap was set for you because what I prepared for you is far greater than what the enemy offered as a substitute. He saw what was yours before you could fully see it yourself. And he moved because your season had already begun. If something in your spirit shifted when you heard that, if something in you recognized that as true, type 444 inches, the comments below. Let that number mark this moment. What has been working against you is the very thing that proves you are standing on the edge of breaking through. Now, I want to give you something practical, something that goes beyond understanding and into application. There is a word that comes from the ancient Greek language. The word is diacrisis. Most people who have come across it in a spiritual context understand it simply as discernment, the ability to know the difference between things. But that is only the surface of what the word carries. In the original Greek, diacrisis is built from two parts: dia, meaning through or thoroughly, and crisis, meaning to separate, to judge. When you put them together, diacrisis does not just mean to sense a difference between things. It means to thoroughly separate two things from each other in order to see each one clearly on its own terms. To take what has been poured together and pull it apart until you can see what each substance actually is. The ancient desert teachers, those who devoted their lives to understanding the interior movements of the human spirit, they said something significant. They said that diacrisis is not primarily a feeling, it is a faculty. And, like every faculty, it can be suppressed. It can be dulled over time by the conditions it operates in. But it cannot be permanently destroyed. And it can be reawakened. The reason so many chosen ones struggle to see clearly in this kind of season is not that they lack wisdom or spiritual depth. It is that this faculty has been working under conditions that suppress it. Fear operates at frequencies that drown out discernment. Exhaustion does the same, and prolonged waiting, as I described in the first part of this message, creates the finally trap that muffles discernment almost entirely, because the relief of arrival becomes louder than everything else. But here is what I want to place in your hands today: a practical tool. 3 questions that together form what I am calling the 3-source test. And this is not abstract spiritual philosophy. This is something you can apply to whatever you are holding right now, in your mind, without moving from where you are. The first question is this: what specifically is drawing you toward this? Not the general hope, not the relief that the waiting might be over. Name the 3 specific things about this situation that feel like confirmation. What exactly are they matching from your prayer? Be honest with yourself about what the draw actually is. The second question is the one that changes everything, because it runs in exactly the opposite direction of how most people approach these situations. Ask this: why would the enemy want me to have this? Not does the divine want this for me. Ask what the enemy gains if you accept it. If there is an honest answer to that question, even a partial one, even an uncomfortable one, do not dismiss it. Examine it. Because what was genuinely sent for you does not serve the agenda of what is working against you. Traps do. The third question is a time test. Genuine provision holds open under patience. It does not contract when you are still. So, for the next 7 days, do nothing toward this situation. Do not reach for it. Do not manage it. Do not try to keep the window open. And after those 7 days, simply ask yourself, is this still available without any active effort from me to sustain it? Because what was truly sent for you will remain. What was a snare will either close without your hand in it, or it will increase the pressure it places on you to return. Either way, you will have your answer. Right now, without moving from where you are, I want you to bring to mind the thing you have been carrying. Just hold it in your awareness for a moment. Now, in your mind, take 3 steps back from it, not away from the hope behind it, not releasing the prayer, just back from the thing itself, slightly, so there is a small space between you and it. And from that distance, just notice, does it pull at you with urgency when you step back from it? Or does it hold itself open, patient, without demanding that you return immediately? That noticing, that small space, is your dire crisis. That is the faculty that has been waiting for room to work. If what I just shared gave you something real today, something that named what you have been sensing, gently press the like on this message. Not for me. There is someone in your life right now who is holding something that does not sit entirely right, and they have not yet found the language for what they are sensing. Let this reach them. Now, before I show you the one thing that every trap you will ever face in your life has been most specifically designed to suppress, and I am going to show you exactly what it is, I need you to understand something first. Because your enemy does not fear your prayers alone. He does not fear your sincerity or your commitment, or even the depth of your seeking. He fears one thing above all. He fears the mind of a chosen one operating at its full, activated capacity. And there is a reason for that fear. What comes next is that reason. Let me give you the simplest version of everything we have covered, because what I am about to share is important, and I want you grounded before we get there. Traps are designed to look like answered prayers, because that is the only kind of trap a spiritually aware person will walk into without resistance. A crude trap does not catch the chosen one. Only a sophisticated one, calibrated to your specific longing, your specific season, your specific form of hope, has any chance. The faculty that sees through it is called dire crisis, and it has always been yours. And the test to apply when you are holding something uncertain is this. Name what draws you. Ask what the enemy gains. Give it 7 days of silence. What was truly sent for you will remain without your effort to sustain it. That is the foundation. Now let me show you why this faculty matters more than you may have understood. Over 3 decades of documented research, carried out by teams at Harvard, Princeton, and several other leading institutions, has mapped a specific and consistent finding inside the human brain. There is a brainwave state called gamma, and gamma is not associated with ordinary focus or general relaxation. It is associated with a particular mode of perception, rapid pattern recognition, the kind of sudden insight that connects things that did not appear to be connected, the capacity that many people describe as intuition, but that the science reveals is a specific, measurable neural state in which the brain integrates information at a depth and speed that other states simply cannot access. In practical terms, gamma is the brainwave state most closely associated with the ability to see through complexity to what is actually present, which is precisely what dire crisis requires to function. Here is what the research has also documented. Children have full access to this state. The developing brain operates within gamma naturally, which is part of why children learn so quickly, make connections so fluidly, and carry a kind of clarity that adults often find striking. And somewhere around the age of 7, as the accumulated pressures of modern life begin to accumulate, as fear becomes a baseline language, as chronic stress becomes the operating environment, gamma begins to recede. The researchers who have studied this pattern have named it the decline effect. And once it begins, the most extraordinary capacities of the human mind go progressively quiet. Not gone, quiet. Before I continue, I want to be honest with you. I am not describing a miracle. I am not making a promise that what I am about to share solves everything. What I am telling you is that there is a door, and for certain people, in certain seasons, walking through it changes what they are able to see. More than 18,000 people have used this tool, and the number of those who asked for their money back was fewer than 4 in every 100. That is not a marketing figure. That is a signal that something real is happening for the people who encounter this. Before I show you the tool, I need you to understand something about who you are in this context. You were not always without access to this frequency. There was a time, before the world began, its long work of conditioning you toward survival, when your mind moved with a clarity that felt natural, almost effortless. That is not nostalgic thinking. That is the documented baseline state you were born with. And for a chosen one, in a discernment season, carrying the weight of a specific decision, holding something that requires the ability to separate what it appears to be from what it actually is. The restoration of that frequency is not a luxury. It is provision. Someone wrote to me recently, a woman who had been circling a significant decision for months. She had prayed, she had journaled, she had sought counsel from people she trusted deeply. The clarity was not arriving. Not for lack of sincerity, the fog simply remained. About a week after she began using what I am about to share, she wrote this. She said, "I did not receive a new idea. I just became able to see what had been there the whole time." She recognized the trap before it closed. Remember what I said about the hunting snare. The trap works by suppressing the very faculty the animal would need in order to detect it. If the ability to sense what does not belong is gone, the bait becomes irresistible. What if the faculty of discernment, your dire crisis, has been operating under exactly those conditions? Suppressed, not destroyed, suppressed. And what if those conditions could be changed? I want to acknowledge something before I share the specifics. For some of you, this moment may feel uncertain. The timing may feel complicated. I am not here to apply pressure to anyone. Only move toward what I am about to share if your spirit recognizes it as something that belongs in your next step. That is the only invitation I am extending. The tool is called the Genius Song. It is a 7-minute audio track. You listen through headphones once a day. That is the complete practice. No technique required beyond that. No early mornings, no demanding routine, no prior experience with anything like this. Dr. Robert Lake, a neuroscientist with 34 years devoted to the study of brain frequencies, compressed the specific protocol that targets and reactivates gamma into a single audio experience. When people look for this kind of clarity through other means, the costs add up quickly. A monthly subscription to a mindfulness app runs around $15, though none of those apps specifically target gamma reactivation. A single session with a therapist costs approximately $150. A weekend spiritual retreat runs between $400 and $800, and clinical biofeedback therapy, the professional equivalent of what Dr. Lake condensed into this format, costs close to $300 per session across multiple visits, with no guarantee of gamma-specific results. The original price of the Genius Song is $49, already significantly less than any of those paths. But for those who arrive here through this specific message, the price is $39. One time, no subscription. That price exists nowhere else and is specific to this space. With your $39 investment, you also receive 4 additional resources at no extra cost. The first is Genius Child, a 6-minute version of the protocol calibrated specifically for the developing brain, valued at $19, and meaningful for anyone raising children who have not yet fully experienced the decline effect. The second is a classic book, the source text that directly influenced The Secret, valued at $20. Offering the original framework behind principles that many have only encountered secondhand. The third is a 22-minute guided visualization moving through 4 domains of your life, valued at $29, a resource that pairs naturally with the reactivation process. And the fourth is a 5-habit infographic capturing the specific daily practices of those who maintain gamma activation long-term, valued at $12. Together, those 4 resources carry $80 in value, and all of them come with your purchase. The guarantee is this: 90 days, full return, no conditions, no questions. And you keep every one of those 4 resources, regardless of whether you ask for the refund. There is one thing I want to make sure you are protected from before we continue. The only authorized source for the Genius song is through the link in the pinned comment and the description below this message. Do not search for this elsewhere. Frequency protocols are not interchangeable. Imitations calibrated incorrectly can produce results that are the opposite of what this is designed to do. The link below goes directly to Dr. Lake's team. That is the only place I am directing you. If your spirit says yes, if something in you recognized the Genius song as provision for this exact season, you will find it waiting in the pinned comment below. Move only when you feel led. But if you feel led, do not let the moment pass. Now let me tell you who you actually are, because that matters more than anything else I have said today. You are not the accidental victim of this trap. You are the deliberate target. And there is a difference between those two things so significant that it changes the entire meaning of this season. Accidents are random. Victims are not chosen. But you were chosen, studied, targeted with precision by something that recognized what you carry before you fully recognized it yourself. And that level of intentional targeting does not happen to the ordinary. That is what happens to the one whose assignment threatens what does not want to be threatened. I hear this being spoken over you now. That quiet voice in you that has been saying, wait, that whisper underneath all the hope and the exhaustion and the longing, that was never fear. That was something far greater than fear. It was never against you. It was with you. In every moment of the waiting, in every moment you nearly moved before you were ready, it was there. You are the one who sees, not a title you earn, the nature you were given. You cannot be made permanently comfortable with what is not true. That is not a character flaw. That is your assignment. You were made to see, you were made to discern. You were made to walk through every snare intact, and every trap that does not close on you becomes a warning system for someone who comes after you. The discernment you are developing in this season is not only protection for you, it is protection that you will carry forward, and others will benefit from it without always knowing your name. We have covered significant ground together today, and I want to acknowledge that before we close. Looking clearly at something you hoped was the answer, sitting with the possibility that what arrived may not have been what it presented itself as. That requires a willingness to love yourself enough to choose clarity over comfort. That is not a small thing. I want to do something with you now, and you do not need to move from wherever you are to do it. In your mind, bring the thing you have been holding into your awareness, that situation, that person, that possibility, and in your mind, set it down in front of you. Not release the hope behind it, not surrender the prayer. Just set the thing itself down, gently, where you can see it from a slight distance. And now, just notice, from here, does it sit patiently? Does it hold itself open without demanding that you immediately return to it? Or does it pull at you with a kind of restlessness that requires your constant attention to sustain? That noticing is dire crisis. That is what was always inside you. I want to release some things from you now. The need to decide before you are ready. That is no longer yours to carry. The guilt of questioning something that arrived looking like a blessing, that is no longer yours to carry. The fear that examining something too closely destroys it, that is no longer yours to carry. And the belief that discernment and faith cannot exist together in the same heart at the same time, that is no longer yours to carry. I hear the Father saying this over you in this moment. What I have prepared for you has never been given to the trap. The trap cannot hold what was named for you before you were born. Walk in discernment, and watch what opens. The chosen one does not walk into the snare. The chosen one walks through snare after snare, season after season, and not one of them closes, because the trap requires blindness. And today, you chose to see. There are others right now, in other places, in other seasons, sitting exactly where you were at the beginning of this message, carrying something they cannot name, holding hope and hesitation at the same time, not yet knowing what you now carry. This message found you for a reason, and what you received here will move through you toward them in ways neither of us can fully predict. You are the chosen one, not the one who is still waiting to be found, the one who has already been seen, already been equipped, and already been prepared for what is coming. The trap did not win here. Discernment did. Go in clarity. If this message gave you something real today, if it gave you language for something you have been feeling but could not name, press the like on this message. Not for me. Let it reach the person who is still in the dark about what is being set against them. If you want to receive more messages prepared for exactly this season, stay connected to this space. What comes next is built for where you are going, not where you have been. And there is someone who came to mind while you were listening. You know exactly who I am talking about. Someone who has been unusually quiet lately. Someone who is circling a decision that does not sit completely right. Someone holding something they cannot fully name. Share this with them. What you just received might be the exact signal they have been waiting for. Type the words, "I am the one who sees," in the comments below. Let that be the declaration you carry out of this message. Let it be what you say to yourself the next time something arrives that requires your discernment. You were made for this.